considering that they wanted to run Soldier Tracer, which is mostly what we saw into week 1. And also, when Azalea came in for this exact map, it was Hanamura when Azalea first showed up. In week 1, on map number 3, it was Azalea on Soldier with THK on the Tracer. So this time around, though, maybe we'll see that, maybe we won't.
And maybe we will also see triple DPS. I think it's not entirely out of the question. It would be interesting to see Queen being the one on it. But yeah, there's going to be the swap off. Certainly would be the first triple DPS we've really seen in Contender specific.
And because it is Hanamura, we are likely to see Eat Up play Widowmaker, at least on the attacking portion.
Yeah.
So hopefully look forward to that one. But to even think about that, first of all, Xavier got to get a good attack, and Hollywood was not their best showing this time around, though. It's a new map and a new opportunity.
Blank on the defense first. And they do have the opportunity to have that point A hold that they would need to truly match Detonator's record against Talon, but that aside, Xavier already out the gate right on Sakura and Tongue. That's the dive that they were after, looking to get Trill down as well. No real answer back from Blank. Edu up and Huss not really getting the picks, not really getting the damage in, and Blank not quite ready for it. I quite liked the proactivity from Xavier, and it pays dividends for them.
And this is why I think the game is very much a game of seconds here. Let's take a look at the very minute timing. And the very minute timing suggests that what happened was Huss translocated out. We saw that he went out of the fight, he took too much damage. Xavier, either they saw that or they thought about it, or maybe they just in their minds,
they sensed it in the force.
They went in 6v5. Huss was missing. He had to go out. And because he was missing Xavier, they found the correct dive. Now they're on to beat.
That being said, it was quick enough that they don't really have ultimates being a factor, so there is not a big snowball opportunity here, but it could just be enough. The coalescence, you know, can definitely be enough to kind of tip the scales, but Blank now, with their own ultimates that they can throw into the mix, the self-destruct didn't catch enough, but it made space, and now the Primal Rage just puts too much health for Xavier to really deal with. Blank able to capitalize on it, get the kills through.
And for Xavier, they didn't have the ultimates, that's absolutely correct, but they still needed Snowball regardless. They needed to find picks, right, because they're closer to ultimates. That means with their kind of players, if they can get the right amount of damage, you get guys like Azalea with the Dragon Blade, but unfortunately, by the time he did get the Dragon Blade, it's a little too late. Team was already dead. Round number 2 for Xavier, attempt number 2, but Huss finally has an EMP. This could shut everything down.
I'm curious to see how this goes. Oh, hello.
Well,
I think Dreamer didn't make the jump.
You're still asleep.
That's...
He was dreaming as he is, yep.
Did Queen take a dive, or was that also not making the jump?
At this point, if the whole team took a dive, it's not out of the world. I mean, you don't want to get staggered. They don't want to risk it. But I think Dreamer might have just legitimately made a mistake there. Didn't make it across with the fade, and because of that, just a waste of time, really.
Yeah, it's a really rough way to waste time as well. Huss already looking to get on the backside. Might not even need to commit the EMP because he got the hack on Olivier, and the follow-up is already there onto Azalea, so no Dragon Blade going to be a factor for him. And Xavier know that they're in a bad spot here. Another hack following up onto Olivier, and now he's demexed, not able to commit the self-destruct. And yeah, this is just Xavier kind of stuck out on this ledge here. No easy way out for them, and a number of members getting picked off. Now Blank, without even using ultimates, have charged up the rest.
And that's so important, right? Because usually you have to use the EMP to win the fight, to then charge everyone else's ultimates, but they haven't even had to do that. So right now for Blank, Blank don't even need to use the EMP. In fact, if they just want to use the other ultimates and then use the EMP to charge them back later on, they can definitely do that. However, you still got to shut down Xavier's ultimates because they got a lot. They got 6.
It was smart by Huss to recognize the ultimate way to win the fight, but this one could just be a brute force situation. The hack on Queen, though, was enough to drop him out. And once again, they may just be getting these fights for next to nothing because, of course, the other option for them there was that nano boost. They don't quite get the full route. Xavier happy to just pull that one ultimate out and back off.
And in about 30 seconds, when the 4-minute timer marks itself, it'll be Xavier completely using up any advantage, any extra time they bought onto A. It's the 4 minutes worth of A time that has now been depleted.
And they need to find their way in. Dreamer in with the coalescence, trying to make it happen. Azalea is sort of looking for the angle, but Blank aren't exactly low enough for the Dragon Blade to start being the closeout factor, and they're kind of surrounded up here. Xavier stuck on this ledge. Sound barrier out. There's the EMP. Doesn't quite catch a lot of members, though, but that's because Xavier themselves have kind of split up. And because they're split up, Blank are able to pick apart the individual segments. Azalea coming in with this Dragon Blade really quite late, unfortunate as that is to say. The rest of Xavier are extremely low, and the members of Blank that are surviving are able to kind of stay in the mix. Now the self-destruct from Huwu, even catching Olivier, really all he was looking to do was make space. That does give a third to Xavier, while Blank are waiting for respawns, but those respawns are now in. They're able to get back on the point and back in the fight. Tongue super low, but he's keeping the team topped up. What a legend this man is right now for this team, and Xavier just kind of have to back off.
Expensive for both sides, and ultimately Blank, they had to pay the price of at least 1 tick. I'd actually got to say that's pretty successful for Xavier Esports. For the amount that they spent, for the amount that they got back in return out of Blank, to then also get their 1 tick, pretty big win for Xavier. They can do that again multiple times. They got 3 minutes worth of time to get 2 remaining ticks. That's definitely possible.
Yeah, certainly wouldn't want to get nothing when you commit all 6 ultimates and get out all 6 ultimates. But yes, they can play for thirds here. The question is, will they be able to? Because Blank is still just kind of looking to cycle through these ultimates. First one is going to be the nano boost. Well handled though by Xavier. No one going down, and they've started to kind of learn the patterns of Blank here, getting a lot better at reacting to them.
It's important because the nano was only good enough to push Xavier out. Speaking of push out, it's still Trill looking for that sort of bodyguarding that upper high ground at the moment. Olivier goes down.
Yeah, and maybe this is one they weren't counting on, the Primal Rage. And Blank had to use it. They didn't have the EMP available just yet. They had to use something else, and it ended up being well enough. I think Xavier were expecting it to be the EMP.
Huss did get kind of spotted out there, so he's got to wait for a better opportunity. Might find one.
Oh.
Playing very patiently. Note that playing patiently here actually works pretty well for Blank.
There's the connect though. So 1 for 1 to begin with, but it very quickly slides the way of Blank. That is the power of the EMP. And of course, with that Blank, once again, just start rotating back into those other ultimates. They have the self-destruct available, getting the nano boost up soon as well. And Xavier are finding no headway here in the macro game.
At the same time, though, they're about to find an opportunity. They're going to get the tactical visor and sound barrier, maybe the tank ultimates as well, into a fight where Blank may not be quite prepared. They will get the nano back, but the nano is just going to be good for keeping themselves alive. And Nano is not going to be a Dragon Blade. Nano is not going to be a Transcendence.
Oh,
that being said, though, losing a player is going to put a stop to Xavier for now and give Tongue a chance to catch up.
Oh boy. Huss as well actually off the Sombra onto the Genji. This is interesting. They are kind of switching up how they've been playing the macro game. I think it's because they realized Xavier had started learning the pattern and reacting to it, but Xavier hadn't exactly been making any headway yet.
Because we're at 1 minute, and at 3 minutes we said they got a tick and that's good. At 1 minute remaining, now they're going to get 2.
Huss a little bit low though, but there's the nano boost in on Trill, just completely decimates this team. Xavier not really getting anything for that, and again, very cheap fight for Blank.
Better yet, because Tay actually used sound barrier there, so for Xavier, they died that quickly. They lost both their supports quickly enough that despite the sound barrier coming out, it wasn't enough to save everyone. They can't find a fight just yet, and now the one fight that Xavier were really looking for, the one where they had advantage, now they're going to come in. Transcendence is available. Tactical Visor can get shut out. Trill is back onto the Primal, and we've seen exactly how well he plays his bounce roll on the high ground.
Double Transcendence is a factor here. Essentially, these two teams are matched for ultimates, but Dragon Blade out of Huss could be a big one. In equal measure, though, still need to see this tactical visor from Azalea. Huss already in, looking for the angle as the Transcendence has come out from Tate. Waits it out, now looks to get aggressive. Was trying to find Azalea, didn't find it, but they've at least routed out Tate.
Oh, no.
Ooh, dear. Huss low, but they're alive, and Xavier cannot say the same for their teammates. As Azalea, unfortunately, finding nothing with that tactical visor. Now pinned in a room with Trill. That was graphic. Oh, man.
I felt that.
Yeah, that was really rough. And now Olivier, the last man standing on the point. Late nano boost, but plenty enough. And look at how many times Kura's been able to pull out that ultimate. 52.6 will be the mark to beat for Blank.
And that's a pretty interesting thing you noted, right? How often the nano actually came out. It was like every other fight we did in fact see a nano boost. And the interesting thing about Kura and Tongue, this particular support duo, is the fact that they're actually both specifically flex support players. Neither of them came in as a Lucio, as a main support player. Tongue's had to learn Lucio, but the true strength of this lineup and their backline is when you get to put both those supports on a flex pick each, Ana and a Zen, or Ana and a Moira, or any of those sort of combinations, that's when that backline really works.
I just kind of wish that, like, the rest of Blank had names like Nose and Eyes and Ears. I just
because
feel like,
one guy's name is Tongue.
Yeah, I just feel like there'd be something kind of thematically apt for that. Like if Xavier...
So it's eye you up, not eat you up, it's eye you up?
Just eye you up.
He eyes you up.
Well, it's like how Xavier have Queen. We were talking like, what if they also had like King and then like Prince, Duke, Baron. You know, you could get the full like Viscount. You could get the full run of them.
It's a little too...
And I mean, really, you could say both of these teams in that regard are lacking in coordination.
I thought about it, and I will say this because it is relevant. The old Detonator Korea, when they had the old lineup with Trona, who you will remember as White from Mega last season of in OPC anyway, they were called Snow White. It was Bixel and Trona renamed themselves to Snow and White. And that's like the closest we've seen to that. That was the old Detonator.
Pretty great. Pretty great. Well, it's like I'm still waiting for Carpe and DM to be on the same team.
But they play the same heroes, like it doesn't work.
I know, it'll never happen, but like I can dream, right?
Yeah.
I can dream.
a man is allowed to dream.
That's all I want. That's all I really want. Speaking of dream, no, I don't really have a good way to segue.
Speaking of dream, Xavier have a dream right now.
Yeah, they got a dreamer. Question is,
they also have a dream because, I mean, at this point, it feels like a dream because I don't know if they can do this. It's starting to get very difficult for them. At least they got the A though, so far it's been better than Hollywood. They've got that going for them.
Like running in a dream, but you don't make any progress. Does seem a little bit that way. Unfortunately, the bio grenade went wide out of Dreamer, so now Blank have kind of got themselves set up on this wraparound, just waiting to press the go button. The support's in position. In behind Huwu. Tank's looking to get in, and already the harass coming out from the flankers as they get set up on the point. Xavier had to give the space away, and that means Blank is set up. You can already see the DPS is moving around the side, trying to get the wrap around. Dreamer pressured out, may go down here. There is the close out. The dive is good, and Blank just clean, precise execution. They set up the play. They execute on the play. And they should be able to get the point off it.
And here's the difference as well, because Blank took a slower approach because they didn't win the point instantly. The bonus of that is actually they're much closer to ultimate. So in terms of their snowball versus what Xavier had on their snowball for A, Blank now get to go on to B with EMP, definitely have the coalescence, will have the self-destruct as well. Xavier, they're going to have a pulse bomb, but nothing else.
Yeah, the execution is going to be a big factor once again. But like I said, Blank with the tools available, they only need to get 52.6%. So this is the hard one for Xavier to withstand. Oh, THK nearly getting the connect, but he goes down. But Xavier have managed to get the initial picks that they are after. Blank, oh wow, just kind of getting picked apart here.
All right, let's figure this out because, again, this is just the minute differences. This is just kind of the small stuff right now. The nitty-gritty of it is the fact that Blank had the EMP within their sights. They had the dive within their sights. They already committed. But Huss got too low. He had to back out. He translocated. But the rest of Blank, the other guys were already there. They got cleaned up. The EMP never came. And now Xavier are just that much closer to the ultimates. And for Blank, they just nearly had that fight. That should have been their fight. They just couldn't commit.
That being said, the EMP is still a tool. If anything, Blank just have more ultimates, and of course the EMP negates so many of the ones out of Xavier. Dreamer, good job staying at a distance as THK finds his counterpart, but never count Blank out. They could still convert. Huwu, for goodness sake, already. And getting the tanks as well takes big ultimates off the board. Xavier, the members that are alive, have now run themselves dry. It's going to be the tanks rejoining with those ultimates, having to try to turn it back around. Nearly there indeed. First tick over, and very close to it. Only about 7% away from actually completing the map altogether. They're still picking these members. Queen did not primal rage. I think he may have been hacked, unfortunately. And Olivier does trade one back with the self-destruct, but he will not remech. And IED up and Huss going off here. It's just Tay alone on the point. Didn't quite do it in one push, but the second one was plenty enough.
What a clutch situation for Blank. Right at the end there, the EMP sort of at the start of it came out. It was like kind of half effective. They, you know, didn't quite get too much out of it. And just when you thought it wasn't going to be enough, Huwu happened.
Yeah, Huwu played Overwatch. I mean, there's actually a lot of things throughout the series so far that can really be attributed to Huwu just kind of holding the ground and going off, pulling through for this team. It's like, it's one of those things with this team, like, you ignore one guy by accident because you're busy focusing on the rest, and they just go off. You ignore Eat You Up for too long, he goes off. You ignore Huwu for too long, he goes off. Speaking
of going off, it looks like Huss is going to go off in CCAMs. Like, finally I get to play.
Yes.
Sub me in a coach. and it's going to be the Eat Up CKM combo, if I'm not mistaken, there as well. But with that, look, Matt, Pixie, time to put the Assault to rest.
It is.
It is.
Officially.
It is now officially.
And on Hanamura, no less.
Exactly. Well, you know what's funny is we say Hanamura for Blank, it's like, but actually, like, there was a time when they set a world record.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, it's ages ago now, but yeah, Blank for a time had the world record of the fastest full cap, that's A and B, in a professional LAN environment.
Well, just a professional tournament, I think. Like, yes. I don't know, but I don't know if they still hold that or not. I'd have to check.
I don't believe
stats
they
on
do.
that, but.
I'm curious.
Anyway, like, it's the new Blank are looking pretty good. All the different versions are looking pretty good. Actually, the only one version we haven't seen is the Eat Up CKM version. So this is the version without Huss, and I think Huss, you know, he's got that. He brings a certain, I guess, mentality and a certain maturity with him to the team. So now with the sort of younger players stepping in and Huss out, I'd be interested to see on Escort what that looks like for the team. But at the same time, look, if we're going to, for example, Junkertown, putting CKM in is pretty big because he's got the good projectile picks. This is the guy you want to be playing on, like, on Junkrat, for example. And if we're going to Dorado, well, he can still play Junkrat, but actually he's got the better Genji between him and Huss. So pretty good. Like, if every permutation so far seems pretty good.
Yeah, and I think this is just a really smart substitution for that reason. I think now actually that Blank are able to sort of utilize You Up, who has of course been on the bench these first 2 weeks. We're starting to see what they can do with each iteration of their DPS lineups, and I think this is very smart. Like, they're really picking into the map type here. I think it's a great call, and it's also great to see that this is an option that now exists for this team, which in the past has actually only ever been just a flat 6.
Yeah, now they got the options, right? I think having options is good. And speaking of options, we saw out of Xavier, they did put Azalea in. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough. Nothing to do with him specifically, but Xavier as a team, like before we went to Hanamura and we saw the substitution, kind of just mentioned, look, at this point in the game, you're 2 down, you're very nearly 3 down. You might as well do anything that you got left. And to be quite fair, at least for the A portion, they blitzed through that one, still made it reasonably competitive on to B because they got over 1 cap, 52.6%. So not a bad map for Xavier, all things considered, when you compare it to Hollywood.
Certainly when you compare it to Hollywood, but I do also think we have to, just for fairness' sake, speak to the other side of that, and that was the things that didn't go right. Because yeah, not bad compared to Hollywood, but again, it was still lost. And the thing we have to say with regards to Xavier on Hanamura, at least on the offense there, the point A went well. I think that's absolutely fair. Point B, however, they got a bit in there. They got the tick. They got it up to the 52, but also they spent a lot of time not getting anything. Spent about 6 minutes not getting anything. And a proponent of that was Blank were just defending well. They were cycling through ultimates very well. Xavier started to learn. They started to adapt to it. But even then, first of all, them learning took a really long time. And when they did learn, it wasn't quite enough to still get them fight wins. And thirdly, Blank recognized that Xavier was starting to learn their tricks and swapped it up.
I do want to say the one sort of weakness that Blank showed there was around the sort of the Sombra play. So there were a lot of good things about it, but 2 of the times that Xavier would manage to break through, that managed to find good fight wins, was when they managed to force Huss out, force him to translocate out specifically, and then use the 6v5. And one of the most devastating ones was when Blank couldn't secure that original snowball onto B, despite having a huge amount of ultimate advantage. They really should have won that fight, but because they forced Huss out early, didn't let him EMP, that was how Xavier got in. So if Blank are going to do anything, specifically that mistake stood out quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think that is something absolutely fairly brought up, and something that Blank should make a point to address, because you know it's very different to when we've seen it both in just the Sombra head-to-head, where you know the ult charge has been quicker for Huss and things like all that, and then also when it's been between Huss and AU Up as that kind of the sort of 2-part hit squad. Like, the execution's been great there. It's been clean. Huss's Sombra play has looked good, but you're quite right about that one place where it's just not quite been good enough.
It's nitpicky, but it did stick out.
And it's the sort of thing that if other teams can do consistently, then they can shut the Sombra down altogether. And at that point, it doesn't matter how well Huss does all those other things on Sombra. It'll unfortunately not be an option for them. So I think you're completely fair to say that like that is something that is a real weakness for Blank here that they ought to address.
And we still haven't seen Eat Up Snipe yet. And I feel like going into Escort with both Dorado and Junkertown on the cards, no matter what map we go to, they're both good Widow maps. In fact, I think on Junkertown, you're almost not just even expected, but you're required to run a Widowmaker on that A attack and defense. So if you're not pulling him out now, I don't know when you are. Like this is now the time, if any time. Also quite excited to see CKM back on the projectile, because that was something that was a little bit missing in this specific version of Blank when you have Eat Up and Huss. Huss is a good hit scan player. The Sombra's been good. He's actually been pretty good on the Tracer as well. He's probably a good soldier, but the Genji is just still not quite there. Still not too confident on the projectile pick, so that's what CKM brings to the table right now. So you have your best projectile player, you have Eat Up, who is a monster Widowmaker and a monster Tracer. I want to see those two work together and see how they operate.
And I just want to, by the way, mention, because we did just get this through a moment ago, I hope I heard this correctly. I believe Seoul Dynasty currently hold the Hanamura attack record, so there you have it. No longer Blank.
Yeah, well, someone had to break it.
Yep. I think if anyone's going to break it, right, like that's a pretty worthy team to have taken the record off you. But yeah, no records currently held in Blank's name. Don't really have anywhere to go from that.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, if they win this, they can hold the season 1 record for winning Contenders Pacific. I guess.
yeah, sure. Like, yeah, that's I guess. Still a ways to go for that, though, but so far...
They're looking good because they're nearly at that 12-0. They could be getting that 12-0. This would be a crazy time for Xavier to bounce back, but the one big thing is, when you look at momentum, when you look at the kind of storyline here, by map 4, in fact, by map 3, Talon went off a cliff. By map 3, Xavier started climbing back in.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair to say. By the way, is it just lighting, or does Blank have 2 gingers on their team?
They do.
They do?
You just noticed that?
I thought that maybe it was, but then I've also seen CKM under different line. I'm like, he's kind of blonde.
No, they're straight.
Bro, pride.
G pride.
I'm really, as much as I am pleased about the sort of increased representation of various countries, we've got more Thai teams than ever before. We've got the first Singaporean team. We have another representative of Japan who have been at least a mainstay country throughout the entirety of Pacific. But I'm really glad that we are now finally bringing up the ginger representation.
Yeah, the one thing.
It's been really, really lacking.
And to be honest, anyone could just dye their hair red as well.
It's just not the same.
Sorry. Yeah, not the natural.
No.
And they were both going to be long-haired as well, but Curry decided to cut his hair after having the longest hair for the longest time as well. But
it's just not right.
There's something about them, man. They're talented.
Yeah. It's just not
the same.
What happened
to you?
Not the washed up. Yeah, it's not the same when you dye your hair. Don't do it, folks. It's just not genuine anymore.
It's not the real. Real deal. Okay, we hopefully CKM gets himself connected in at some point. Dye your hair blue, all
you
of
try and convince people that it's natural. Well,
let's dye the sky blue. It's nighttime in Dorado.
Thank you. Good segue.
And final map.
I was looking for it, but I couldn't find it.
Well, that's what I'm here for. The 4th and final map of the series. Blank looking for their 4-0, looking to even things up on their side of their group with what Detonator have. They're looking for that 12-0. They're nearly there. And you got to think they could probably do it. In fact, I think, CKM, Eat Up might have even be their best DPS duo in terms of pure mechanics.
I think that's potentially very true. And certainly Dorado is going to be a place where we can maybe see that come to fruition. And I think an interesting thing to say with that as well is... as much as we can only draw so much from the past, we do still have to recognize that the bulk of this team is the same that it has been for about the last 6 to 8 months. Dorado is a decent map for this team. There's new factors in the mix. Let's absolutely not forget that. But Dorado is generally speaking a good map for Blank, as is Junkertown. So on the whole, I kind of expect this to be where the 4-0 gets completed. Once again, though, execution is always the X factor, and guess whose name starts with the letter X? It's Xavier. And maybe this will be where it happens.
And Xavier, by the way, this will be their first match in Contenders where they do not go to a map 5. And I know that was like, it would have been pretty much impossible for them to go to map 5 for every single match anyway. So that was going to get broken sooner rather than later. And no better place, I guess, than against the best team so far in their group.
Yeah. Without wanting to speak too soon, this could actually be, if I'm not mistaken, the first night of Contenders Pacific where we do not have a full 5 series. It's still down to the last match.
Well, to be honest, the first week, both the third and final matches were the full best of 5.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wouldn't count it out just yet, and I wouldn't count either team out of this match just yet either. Let's just see how it unfolds.
THK going to be on the Widow. Advanced position already abandoned by Blank. So they have officially been dislodged. No one dying on the retreat, though, as they set up for the courtyard.
Good discipline. At the same time, you do want to see Blank get a little bit more out of that early defense, stall it for a little bit longer. Didn't quite get enough ult charge. THK is actually one with the most ult charge right now, so his damage is really... Look at this flank. Where is he right now? Is he trying to defend B?
It kind of feels that way, but they kind of got past the choke. Good bio grenade, though. Actually woke up the sleeping queen, but it's a bit too late, unfortunately, for Xavier, as the rest of the team just kind of capitalized on. THK did finally get set up in that, real humdinger of a position, but now going to get firmly dislodged from it. It would have been great if it weren't for that sleep and bio grenade out of Kura.
Well, that's a problem, and another problem is by the time he got into position, a bunch of his teammates got killed, no part in due to the fact that there was a sleep and a bio grenade, but he actually got into the high ground behind Blank, got himself a kill. That could have been very effective if they just didn't lose the early members themselves.
Now still kind of scrapping around this choke point. This time no sleep from Kura, I don't think. At any rate, he's dead. He's having the permanent kind of sleep until he respawns, that is. But while he's having a nap, the rest of Blank is kind of getting aggressive. Olivier now demeched as well. They're finding themselves largely tankless here. Yeah,
Do you know what just happened? Okay, so Shiki DMX Olivier, and he's like, yeah, Tung can 1v1 him. No, Tung lost the 1v1 to the baby diva, and CKM's like, sorry.
Whoops. Well, oh dear, going down to THK as well, and actually this has meant that Blank have staggered out a little bit here. Lost some unfortunate momentum. What a sleep, though, onto Azalea.
That sleep was so big, Azalea just exited the game. That's why we're paused right now.
Intense pause screen I've ever seen. But the sleep right on the Dragon Blade, actually it kind of looks like Xavier on the cusp of sort of biting back, but a couple of ultimates have gone wide just now, and I believe a bio grenade did just land onto a lot of them as well as Kura's kind of re-entered, so I wonder if we're actually going to see Blank now start to turn the fight around again.
Definitely possible. A lot of this is going to come down to what Azalea gets out of the Dragon Blade, if it gets shut down, and the other thing is, the surprise factor's gone, right? Because of the timing of the specific pause, it's not like, oh wow, there's a blade, we didn't see it, it's carving us up. It's like, okay, we know it's there. You can even just make a plan right now, like, everyone knows about it, and he's just blown up. So, I mean, there it is.
It is only Trill, though, on here with this nano boost, but it looks like it's kind of been enough to force back a number of the members of Xavier. But the rest are sort of able to re-enter, so Blank, a couple of key members dying at some very inconvenient times just left them a little bit too separated.
Well, one of them was Tung, right? Because Tung was left to 1v1 Olivier and the Baby Diva, lost a 1v1, and because he died, look, he didn't come back with the Transcendence. That could have been a key changing factor. CKM didn't get to use his blade. That could have been a changing factor. So many things could have swung it back in Blank's favor.
Now, though, Blank finding themselves setting up for the street phase, have at least been able to take up this position. Even getting Azalea on the way as they were setting up is pretty big for them. CKM maybe wants to look for a Dragon Blade, maybe doesn't need one, though. Xavier just kind of have to go into full retreat.
Trill did have to use one Primal Rage, but I'd say stabilizing on the B Streets phase defense this early, losing E up really hurts though. Stabilizing still though, they've still got 5 members, they've still got ultimates, I'd say they're safe. Is really important. They're going to look for another quick dive now because Xavier are not wasting time. Carter's underway.
Yeah, smart by Xavier as well, with the respawns being where they are for them to get straight back on it while Eat You Up was dead. Now Blank have to find their way back in on the defense, but that's a very low Azalea able to pull back. Kura's the first casualty. The Transcenders now out of tongue as Blank.
We got a blade. Where's the blade?
Yeah, they've got to use it. CKM is looking for a window still. Gets the Transcendence out of Tay. They're still not quite finding the entrance that they need. In fact, Tongue now getting picked off. It was Kura a moment ago. They're having a hard time keeping all these members healthy. Xavier are starting to take advantage of it.
And now we're going to be going underway through the archway section. Now this is where the defense wanted to stabilize fully. They had that one quick stabilization, but ever since Eat-Up got picked out, Blank have just not been finding a good fight. Even in that last fight, just, you know, they dropped in. Kura died very quickly. Xavier have barely spent ultimates either. Now we're nearly capped on B.
CKM finally pulls out the Dragon Blade, but finds himself under Azalea's own, who is just getting way more done with his. That was about as rough as it could go. After holding on to that for so long, CKM never quite feeling like he at the time, suddenly under pressure to press the go button and getting nothing for it.
And this is all it takes. You just need to lose a couple of quick fights onto B, and suddenly the attackers are all the way into the final cap. And Blank, they spent resources there. They used the Primal, they used the blade, and they didn't get enough out of it. Xavier had his own blade by then. Xavier has bladed twice before CKM's bladed once. Xavier failed his first one, I'll be quite honest, but CKM, he failed his first one as well.
Now the dive in, very quick, very decisive from Blank, is starting to pay off. This is what Blank have unfortunately been lacking for the last 2 fights on the streets phase. So finally getting back in there, stopping up the cart in a pretty decent position as well.
Now, right now, this could be Xavier's best map of the series. I mean, they're technically in this game itself 2 points up, which is more than what they got into Nepal. Yep. So they're further than they were in Hanamura, further than Hollywood. And they're definitely at risk of pushing it all the way to the end. But Blank, they got ultimates now. They got to commit.
It's the beginning of the stabilization, to be sure. Just sort of backing off, waiting out the coalescence. Now getting onto the payloads with the Transcendence as they start to get the picks. Blank didn't quite find anything in the initial phase of the fight, and I think they just they were still playing as though they had won and didn't really give respect to the counter dive from Xavier, getting absolutely picked apart.
At this sort of point for Blank, like, you've used Coalescence, you're obviously committed, like, you need your other ultimates here. Use Soundberry if the Coalescence isn't giving you the mileage. It's about time to get everything else in there. You've got to be committed to winning. There is no point to just throwing these ultimates out there, then losing. Like, if you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound.
Well, this is that pound that was not committed to the prior penny, and this time it pays off. Already catching the 2 as they just destroy Xavier, funneled
Azalea?
away. Azalea, late Dragon Blade, probably too late. Queen the only tank here with no healers to top him off. Azalea only getting 2 before he goes down, and I've got to question the commitment of that ultimate there.
Well, he wanted to be the hero. He might actually change heroes. If he goes to Soldier here, it'll make a lot more sense, but at the same time, for Xavier, they felt like, okay, maybe we try and turn this around. Didn't respect the remaining members of Blank, didn't consider that even if Azalea got the hero play, even if he got a bunch of kills, they don't respawn as fast as Blank, so they still don't really get the push, so didn't really make a difference, and now they lose a blade.
Now we see them again trying to get proactive onto Blank, but Blank pulled back. They've got the Coalescence there, and Xavier finding themselves a little bit overextended, only slightly, but it's enough for Blank to collapse on the column. And with Xavier sort of separated and in disarray, they again find themselves having to pull back, or at least the survivors do.
Now, with about 1 minute remaining, Blank have the ultimate advantage. Xavier have definitely had their momentum stopped here. They've just not gotten any progress now for a couple of fights. Despite having a really great run onto B, this is where they hit the brick wall. They got to get ultimates out of Blank and then consider another push, but I don't think they get another push at this rate. This might just be it. Yeah,
they've got to get one big steamrolling push, and they know it too. They get proactive with the sound barrier in. They have to get early kills though, otherwise Blank's ultimates will just overwhelm them. 1 for 1, not good enough on the open for Xavier. Even worse now as CKM opens up, gets mileage, gets Azalea, and THK plus Tay dead to Trill on the other side of the fight. I mean, Xavier, no more steam left for that one, and only 10 seconds just over left. Few members still hanging around this. Really big stagger actually, as Queen going down super late in this one. 5 seconds remaining. Xavier at best get a 5 versus 6, and it's a last-ditch one at that.
But what they do get is a transcendence into a Blade and Azalea. He wanted to be the hero before. Now he gets to be the hero again, maybe. But he's got to live.
And they don't save Olivier. So again, no tank presence. Azalea has to go in with next to no support here and is not finding anything. THK is, but it's not enough. Azalea is low. The cart only just barely moving, but Blank just still in this strong defensive position here as Xavier barely making headway. Azalea does get a little bit of headway though. Just then he dies. And there we have it. Blank looking like they will stabilize on the defense at last. So look at how quickly that overtime vanishes the moment somebody leaves that cart. That puts Xavier in an impossible situation. You have to respect... That's style points. You have to respect the distance they got in the end of that, given how dire it was. Blank did give them a lot of room that they took full advantage of, but still not quite the full cap through. Blank need only finish the map.
Which is actually, to be quite fair, for what we've seen so far in the series. Oh, CKM spilled this drink. Oh, no.
Oh, jeez.
But to be fair, like, compared to what we've seen across the other 3 maps, Xavier getting... Look how far they got.
Yeah.
Nearly the full way through. They're nearly fully capped out. We may have been going into a time bank for Blank. For a team that's already 3-0'd Xavier to then be this close, like, Blank could have probably have just held like they did in Hollywood, or just B held like they did on Hanamura, but they couldn't get any of that done. This is Xavier kind of, they fell over during Hollywood, and they've definitely gone back up by now.
Yeah, I think we just saw a couple of things. I mean, you talk about full holding on A. There was a fight where it was possible, where it then didn't happen for Blank, and you know, it was slight mistimings of things, slight issues in the execution. Only small, but you know, it is those little things that count. It is truly a game of inches. But of course, the other thing we've got to consider there, for Xavier, that was a few good offenses away from being a full cap, but for Blank, it was a few good defenses away from being, you know, point A or point B hold somewhere else in there. So truly that is a distance reflective of how that went for both of those teams, and either of them having a slightly better performance now on the reverse side, Xavier on the defense, Blank on the offense, could result in a win either way. So this is really not over.
Well, this is Xavier definitely making Blank work for it. If it's going to be a Blank victory, Blank do not get it easily. They do not just get that 1/3 on a hybrid or an assault. They definitely don't just get an A push and just finish it right then and there. This is now Blank got to make the full distance happening. It's going to be CKM on the fire as well against THK's Widow. Might look to change, indeed does change. Smart man.
It's just the battle of the 3-letter acronyms there, isn't it?
It kind of is, yeah.
The TLAs.
And it could just be TAE, you know?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe it's TAE.
Maybe it's TRILL. Never know. I
don't want to do who will I Europe. I don't want to go there. It's too much work.
Yeah. You get something like Ryu Hong.
Yeah, no thanks.
Could be, oh, what? Man, I mean, what it is going to be is the first push now coming through this archway out of Blank, and Xavier haven't really mustered much of a defense in that space.
Oh.
The payload's still moving here. THK forces Dreamer up towards him, which draws him away from the tank line, and in that window, D-Mech on Olivier and kill on Queen. Blank. Payload having already made some good grounds here, just looking to cleanly push through A, just need to close out these last few.
There's no more tanks right now, so it's all up to THK, and as it's all up to THK, he at least does get CKM. However, because there's no tanks, who's going to touch this cap? Who's going to stop Blank from actually capping? Might not be anyone.
Yeah, Xavier do at least get to sort of rejoin the fight, but they do so into a more set up Blank, and you see that just reflected in the kills. Queen dying again, Azalea laid on this Dragon Blade, and Tung has the tools to deal with it, plus killing CKM killing Azalea, rather. And that is the cap, like you said.
And THK as well, these are all late deaths. These are all, speaking of late deaths,
oh dear.
Dreamer being caught out. Xavier gotta wait so long. Look at now the possibility, the potential that Blank have to get this early hold. Look at the ultimates they get to work with as the cart gets pushed over for free.
And unlike Blank here, it looks like Xavier are not going to get that initial high ground set up on the defense. Payload already passed that area, so Blank just kind of pushing it up towards the archway now. That's just one less emplacement Xavier have at their disposal for a fight. Quick moves out of Blank, sound barrier to drive them into the fight, and they start piling it home already with the pick on Tay. Dreamer forced to use first his Valkyrie and then also his res on Tay, who does come back in with the Transcendence now as they pick Trill. Could be a swing point now for Xavier, but Blank in equal measure can just back off and bide their time.
And time is very valuable right now because as Blank may be back out from this, it appears that they will in fact be backing out. The card push has been good. Look at where it is. It's pretty much on the archway. Note that that's off 1 attempt. Blank, they're actually still kind of in this fight. Their respawners are pretty much back now, so they don't have to take too long here. They can just immediately recommit. Dragon Blade's ready on one side, Dragon Blade on the other side also ready. Yeah. So it's back down to the CKM versus Azalea duel, and they've been definitely on par with each other so far.
And there's Azalea in already. Tay actually gets the opening kill. Azalea not quite converting though as the Transcendence from Tongue is there. Now CKM can be the one to go in as soon as the Transcendence from Tay is over. Also self-destruct kill, and he gets Tay straight off the bat. The res coming on THK, but right into the blade of CKM. Actually has to put the blade away, and in that time, Xavier were picking off the rest of these members. CKM and who will work cut out for them. They do at least get some, but Queen's still in this. The respawners are closer for Xavier. Blank know they have to back away.
It was a good start from, I would say, when the Dragon Blade came down for CKM, the hope was definitely there. He started to get some kills, couldn't quite clean up Dreamer because he couldn't quite clean up Dreamer, then didn't quite get enough resource to get down THK as well. Didn't get any dash resets from that. I mean, that was nearly just like 4 kills in a row. Ended up stopping before Dreamer went down, and for the rest of Blank, they couldn't pick up any other kills, couldn't support CKM, but now it's a new fight.
This is an interesting flank from Blank here. They don't quite have the payload in the ideal position for this, but it's already paying off as they catch Olivier. They only lost Tongue in the rotation as well. There's the Dragon Blade again from Azalea though, and he's already off to a great start. Only 1 back from CKM, and how quickly did he have that available? And now Blank actually kind of punished for taking that flank because that was no progress on the payload.
That's really unfortunate for Blank, but really great for Xavier. Look, Azalea with the Dragon Blade, it's been hit and miss, but when he's hitting extremely hard. And unfortunately for CKM, he's had kind of just mediocre results so far. Kind of good, but even when he's had decent-ish Dragon Blades, the rest of Blank just weren't really there. For Xavier, this kind of stabilization becomes really dangerous for Blank. We are running out of time now, and the cart is far up enough that Blank can't easily reinforce on top of it. And for Xavier, they kind of can.
Blank aren't really finding good ways in on this either. Again, going for this flank, even going in a longer route. So once again, a lot of ground they've got to fight through. Oh, but CKM gets the runaround this time. And now they start to collapse on Xavier, who were a little bit caught by surprise from that one. That is members dropping like flies. That is Blank finally getting the payload back underway.
That's the Blank bamboozle, right? Everyone was looking at the flank on the opposite side. No one realized that, in fact, it was CKM coming from the regular positioning where normally the cart would be coming from in sort of originally. Blank gets to now roll on through.
Yeah, and roll on through, absolutely the way to put it. Olivier throws in the self-destruct, does at least catch Tongue. Maybe Who was just going to do a Hoo-woo. Probably not in this fight, actually. I think Blank recognized they aren't quite going to get the big momentum coming into this and do have to pull back to the payload for now.
They do get to save some ultimates as Eat-Up gets staggered out, and Xavier back onto the Dragon Blade, and it's been an interesting duel, and I say duel because you know, they both are Dragon. They haven't really fought each other too often, but Xavier so far has had some pretty big blades. CKM definitely want to see a bit more.
Only just getting the payload really firmly into C now. There's still a couple of fight wins away from actually getting it over the line, and not really much time left for it. Blank need to start the snowball really about now.
Blank have less time on C than Xavier did, and Xavier had a great B. Blank had an extremely poor B, but now they get the opening.
Could be an extremely great C for Blank. Azalea does get one back. CKM not really finding much, having to deflect out Azalea. Gets the drop on him as he re-enters the fray, but Trill, he is not done yet. He's going to go toe-to-toe with Queen, at least for the time being. EU up low. And unfortunately, the healers aren't really a factor here for Blanks. They're having a hard time staying on this one. May have, in fact, overstayed even as they are getting kills because they don't really have the members to kind of support this one. The respawn's being closer for Xavier. This could just be a time sink, a sunk cost fallacy situation for Blank. But now, though, with the regroup, Xavier didn't quite capitalize on it. looks like Blank may be able to get this underway still.
Trance was used by Tay, though, so Xavier definitely still within this fight. Blank looks like
start.
they kind of backing out with Eat Up down. He had the Pulse Bomb as well. Azalea nearly onto the Dragon Blade, and we've seen what he can do with that.
There is no more opportunity for Blank to back out and go for another one. It's now or never, unfortunately. I mean, if it's the next one, then it's going to have to be a pretty spectacular one as Azalea closes the book on it for now. Now Blank very much on the back foot, sunk far too much time into that fight.
And I don't want to say it until it's extremely true, but at this time in the game, you can't even expect Uru to pull out a clutch play with a self-destruct. Look, he's done it a couple times, but it's not going to be an every time thing. This could be Blank losing their very first map in Contenders. Xavier are very close to winning here.
A little bit of payload progress for now. Xavier by their time. They know they are limited in ultimates. They're going to have to find the proactive play now. They can't just let Blank roll it on through. Not having done all this work to try and close it out. Xavier, they just need to convert now in this last fight. Sound barrier in. Trill low. He's down. They've got Kura too, but CKM, he's got a different thought in his mind. And that thought is Blank winning with a 4-0. THK and Azalea, the last few left, and THK too low to affect it. Now just diving onto the payload. Olivier may be able to get there in time. No, he will not. And they were so close to stopping it up. Blank very much challenged towards the end, but they get it over the line. They complete the 4-0.
And if this was a 5-map series, you could potentially see map 5 going to Xavier, but unfortunately, there's only going to be 4, and maybe fortunately for Blank, there's only going to be 4. We were waiting for the good CKM blade to finally come out, and it came out exactly when it needed to, right when it mattered the most. It was hard. Very hard in the middle of that game. Blank had to hold onto C. They couldn't get the B hold, they couldn't get the A hold, then they had to push onto C in the overtime. That was so hard for them. But they get it across the line. This, however, is going to have to be, unfortunately for Blank, somewhat of a sour finish to what was a super dominant series.
Yeah, I mean,
yes and no, right?
As sour as a 4-0 can be, right?
Exactly. It's like you feel great, but also like, oh man, like that could have been clean.
You wanted it to be more dominant than that. You wanted it to be a point A hold, and it was certainly possible for them. And certainly that's something that they're going to go away and sort of unpack and diagnose and seek to fix in future. But look, on the whole, Blank's still very much ahead of the pack here. Xavier, wherever they may end up in the standings, they did actually challenge Blank. The same cannot be said on the other side of the group coin here with Detonator versus Talon, where Talon didn't really pull that same challenge in. So you've also got to consider first place finisher, theoretically, aside. I think out of this group, we could be seeing a much heftier punch coming through from the second, third, and fourth as they move into playoffs compared to Group A. And that purely comes just extrapolating from this performance here. But I think on the other side of that, Blank can and should be happy with this because we talk about realizing more and more of their potential. I do think that was the case here. I think they've got to work quite hard to stay ahead of the pack, harder than Detonator do. I think it's possible for them, though.
12-0 definitely says they've got the top 4 locked down. They've possibly even got number 1 locked down at this stage. But for Xavier, I actually think that was towards the end. Look, map 2, Hollywood was... When you saw Xavier after map 2, you're like, okay, well, this is over. This was kind of done here. But I think map 3 and 4, when they started to really climb back, and by map 4, like, they weren't just climbing back. I think they were right there. They were kind of neck and neck with Blank, right? That's why I say if we go to map 5, I think Xavier take map 5 because they just really, they look like they finally found their mojo. They got the momentum back.
Yeah.
And so for Xavier, seeing that kind of last minute, that last win, you know, the second win rather, that's quite important because that says Xavier is still a top 4 quality team within their group. They're still expected to finish within the top 4. Now it's like, instead of being number 4, I think maybe they can keep their number 3 spot, maybe challenge for number 2.
Yeah, and I think that challenge for number 2 will come when they play against Mega, their sort of fellow Thai squad. And I think that's going to be a match that ends up defining a lot of the rest of the sort of area. You know, if they win that one, they should feel pretty safe in making top 4. But if they lose it, they may end up still fighting just for even a 4th place finish. So there's still kind of a lot to be determined, just even with that sort of mid-strata.
All right, well, let's take it to a quick break. But when we do come back, the final match of the evening, it's going to be Japan's Yoshimoto and Count facing off against Taiwan's A Bang. We'll see you after the break.